Zoe moved through the bustling corridors of the stadium like she owned every inch of it, though in truth, she just felt like she did. The hum of voices, the thud of balls against turf, and the faint scent of liniment filled the air. Her hands, skilled and sure, carried stories of countless aches and tensions eased under her touch. Players came and went, offering nods of respect, sometimes fleeting smiles, but never realizing how deeply she felt every victory and setback alongside them. In her quiet moments, she'd pause and listen to the rhythm of the place, the heartbeat of a team striving for glory. It was her sanctuary and her stage, and she knew every nuance, every hidden tension behind the bright jerseys. Freddy leaned against the locker room door, arms crossed, observing Zoe with a gaze that softened whenever their eyes met. As the team's coach, his mind was always running through plays, strategies, and formations, but Zoe grounded him in ways he hadn't expected. There was a quiet electricity between them, subtle yet undeniable, hidden in the brush of hands when passing towels, or the stolen glances over the morning briefing. No one else could see it. Not yet, and perhaps that secrecy made every shared moment feel sharper, more urgent, like a fragile flame dancing in the wind. Their world was contained within these walls, pulsating with shared understanding and careful restraint. Today, however, the stadium seemed more alive than usual, a buzz of anticipation threading through every corner. The team was preparing for a crucial away tournament, and the tension was tangible, wrapping around Zoe like a second skin. Players fidgeted with cleats, murmured strategies, and laughed nervously, unaware that the rhythm of this place depended as much on her hands as on their kicks. Freddy moved between them with practiced ease, giving instructions, offering encouragement, but always with one eye on Zoe, subtle gestures speaking a language no one else understood. Even amidst chaos, they had carved a small world of their own, poised delicately on the edge of exposure, their hearts beating in sync with the pulse of the game. The locker room smelled of sweat, leather, and just a hint of antiseptic, familiar, grounding, almost comforting to Zoe as she set her kit down. She moved from player to player, kneading tired muscles with the precision of someone who had learned to read bodies as if they were books. Each sigh of relief, each small win in a tight knot of tension, resonated with her, and she couldn't help but feel a quiet pride in the invisible role she played. To the outside world, she was just the team's massage therapist, but she knew the truth. She was the silent anchor, the calm in the storm, and sometimes the unspoken witness to dreams and fears that never made it beyond these walls. Freddy caught her glance across the room, and for a heartbeat, the stadium noises faded. Their connection was a quiet rebellion against the chaos, a shared secret that carried both thrill and weight. Zoe's lips curved into a soft, almost imperceptible smile, and Freddy returned it with a subtle tilt of his head. No words were needed. They understood each other in ways no one else could. Yet, beneath that ease, Zoe felt a flicker of doubt. This secrecy, necessary as it might be, sometimes carved a hollow in her chest. She wondered if the game they played outside the locker room mirrored the one they navigated in their hearts, full of hidden passes and silent strategies. Outside, the field shimmered under the bright stadium lights, a stage of endless possibilities, each blade of grass a witness to triumph and struggle alike. Zoe stepped out briefly, letting the crisp evening air wash over her, grounding her in the moment, before returning to the swirl of players and coaches. Freddy was already there, clipboard in hand, pacing with that same intensity she had learned to anticipate. Together, they were a silent duo, moving through the organized chaos, sharing the invisible threads of trust and longing that tied them to each other. The upcoming tournament loomed, promising challenges, pressure, and perhaps moments that could either bring them closer or test the fragile balance they'd fought to maintain. The hum of the stadium felt almost electric now, buzzing with the tension of preparation and the thrill of the unknown. Zoe returned to her corner of the locker room, carefully aligning oils, towels, and supplies as if arranging a ritual that could tame the chaos. Her mind, however, wandered to Freddy, how he always seemed to shoulder the weight of the team with a quiet strength, and how every fleeting touch between them sent shivers down her spine. There was an unspoken question hanging in the air. Could their hidden connection survive the scrutiny that was bound to come with the away tournament? Freddy's voice cut through her thoughts, calm yet commanding, as he called the players over for a final briefing. Zoe watched him, noting the way his eyes scanned the room, catching every detail, every subtle sign of tension. She felt the familiar pull of pride and affection, tinged with worry. Their secret was a fragile dance, and with the journey ahead, she knew the steps would grow more complicated, the stakes higher, and the consequences sharper. Each choice they made in silence carried weight, shaping not just their day, but perhaps the very rhythm of their hearts. As the team started to disperse, buzzing with energy for the upcoming tournament, Zoe lingered a moment longer, letting the sounds, smells, and motion imprint on her senses. She felt the quiet thrill of being part of something bigger, a world full of movement, strategy, and emotion. And yet, amidst it all, she couldn't shake the feeling that the real story, the one that mattered most, was unfolding just between her and Freddy, in glances and touches the rest of the world wasn't meant to see. The journey was about to begin, and with it, the delicate balance of love, loyalty, and ambition that would define everything ahead. Zoe closed the door to her small treatment room and let out a slow breath, trying to shake off the lingering adrenaline from the locker room. The hum of distant voices and the faint clang of equipment outside reminded her that life here never stopped. She rubbed her hands together, feeling the warmth of oils and lotions that had become extensions of her touch, and yet her mind kept wandering to Freddy. Keeping their relationship a secret was becoming a quiet ache, exciting, yes, but also exhausting. Every glance, every accidental brush of hands carried the weight of unspoken rules, and Zoe sometimes wondered if the thrill was worth the tension that knotted her chest. Freddy leaned casually against the doorframe, a teasing smirk tugging at his lips, and Zoe felt the familiar pull in her stomach. He whispered something about the next session, but the words barely registered. Her focus was on the way he lingered, how his presence could turn the ordinary into a private world of unspoken understanding. No one else in the stadium would ever guess the small battles they fought daily, hiding smiles, hiding touches, pretending that nothing special existed beyond the professional veneer. And yet Zoe found herself craving those stolen moments more fiercely than ever, even as doubt nibbled at the edges of her confidence. The quiet tick of a clock on the wall seemed almost accusatory, measuring every second they were forced apart. Zoe wondered if the other staff noticed the subtle shifts, the secret language in their eyes, the gentle hesitations that preceded a shared laugh or touch. There was a tension beneath the surface, one that pulsed through the team like an undercurrent, and Zoe felt its pull with every beat of her heart. Freddy, sensing her unease, reached out just slightly, fingertips brushing hers in a fleeting moment that felt like an eternity. In that instant, everything else faded, leaving only the fragile intimacy that neither was ready to expose. The tension followed Zoe everywhere, even into the bustling hallways where staff and players moved like a living, breathing organism. Every smile from a teammate, every casual remark, felt like a potential threat to the secret she and Freddy guarded so carefully. She caught herself overanalyzing small gestures, a lingering glance, a half smile, a dropped towel, and wondered if someone was beginning to suspect. The uncertainty gnawed at her, stirring a quiet anxiety beneath the calm professionalism she projected. Yet, there was also a thrill in the dance, in the way their eyes could meet across a room and say more than words ever could. Freddy noticed the subtle shift in her demeanor and pulled her aside briefly, his hand brushing hers in what felt like both reassurance and warning. "We've got this," he murmured, voice low enough that no one else could hear. His words carried the steady weight of authority, but also the softness of shared vulnerability. Zoe clung to that reassurance, but a part of her couldn't ignore the growing pressure of secrecy. The more she tried to hide, the more exposed she felt, like balancing on a narrow ledge, where one misstep could unravel everything they had quietly built. A small incident later that day set her nerves on edge. A misplaced text on Freddy's phone, a lingering glance from a curious teammate, tiny signs that someone might be paying attention. Zoe's heart pounded in response, a mix of fear and exhilaration swirling inside her. She had to navigate this delicate game with skill, maintaining her professionalism while protecting a bond that mattered more than she dared admit. Every decision now felt magnified, every glance scrutinized, and the stakes were no longer just about the team. They were about the fragile world she and Freddy shared behind closed doors. That evening, as the stadium lights dimmed and the echo of practice faded into distant chatter, Zoe lingered in the quiet of her treatment room. Shadows stretched across the walls, and the faint hum of the air conditioning became a companion to her thoughts. She thought about Freddy, about how the pressures of his public role weighed on him and how much he had promised to protect her from the storm. Yet, even his reassurances couldn't erase the gnawing doubt. Was their secrecy sustainable? Or were they walking a tightrope destined to snap? Freddy appeared in the doorway, his presence like a warm anchor in the cool, still room. He didn't speak immediately, simply offering a look that conveyed patience, understanding, and the intensity of emotions neither could yet voice. Zoe felt herself relax slightly, yet tension coiled in her chest, a reminder that the world outside could shift everything in an instant. The delicate balance they maintained between love, ambition, and professionalism was fragile, and every small slip had the potential to ripple far beyond their private sphere. Outside, distant laughter and the clatter of equipment hinted at the life of the stadium continuing, oblivious to their hidden world. Zoe and Freddy exchanged a subtle nod, an unspoken agreement to navigate the next challenge together, even as whispers of curiosity began to stir around them. Something small, almost imperceptible, had already shifted in the team's dynamic, and Zoe sensed that the upcoming journey would test every ounce of discretion, trust, and courage they possessed. The path ahead was uncertain, but together, they felt a quiet determination, ready to face whatever moments of temptation, tension, or revelation the days to come might hold. The team bus rolled down the highway, a blur of city lights fading behind them, and Zoe sat quietly in her seat, hands folded over her bag. The hum of the engine and low chatter of players created a rhythm she found strangely soothing, yet her mind was elsewhere, hovering over Freddy's presence just a few rows ahead. She stole glances, noticing the way he juggled coaching duties while sneaking brief smiles her way, small gestures that made her heart race. Traveling for an away game brought new energy but also new challenges, maintaining professionalism under the scrutinizing eyes of teammates, staff, and eventually fans. Every step, every movement, now carried the weight of both expectation and secrecy. The hotel loomed ahead, lights glowing warmly against the night sky, promising rest yet hinting at the intensity the next day would demand. Zoe moved through the lobby, luggage in hand, alert to every eye that might linger too long. She knew Freddy was nearby, orchestrating logistics with a focus that left no detail unattended, and she admired him silently for the way he balanced authority with care. Yet, the thrill of being together outside the stadium walls made her pulse quicken, a delicate tension that danced beneath the surface. Moments stolen in hallways, whispered greetings in elevators. These became small victories, tiny islands of connection amidst the structured chaos. Inside the team's hotel suite, the air was a mixture of fatigue, excitement, and the faint scent of takeout from earlier arrivals. Zoe moved efficiently, unpacking supplies and preparing her treatment corner while keeping one eye on Freddy as he checked in with the players. Rumors and whispers had started to ripple subtly among the staff, small observations that could easily pass unnoticed, but Zoe felt the weight of every lingering glance. She understood instinctively that the journey ahead would not just test the team's skills on the field, but also the delicate web of relationships behind the scenes, especially the one she and Freddy were desperate to protect. The hotel corridors felt endless, echoing with laughter, footsteps, and the occasional slam of a door, but Zoe moved with a quiet purpose, slipping through the flow of players and staff like a shadow. She balanced her duties with precision, massaging tense shoulders, offering guidance on recovery, all while keeping a careful eye on Freddy. Their stolen moments, brief touches in elevators, shared smiles across crowded rooms, were electric, small sparks in an otherwise controlled environment. Each encounter left her heart fluttering, a reminder that the professional facade they wore so well barely contained the storm of desire simmering beneath. Whispers started to drift through the team, subtle enough to be dismissed, yet sharp enough to prick at Zoe's nerves. A lingering look, a suspicious comment, the kind of casual observation that could unravel even the most carefully hidden truth. Zoe felt the weight of scrutiny in every glance, sensing that the secret they guarded so fiercely was slowly, almost imperceptibly, slipping into the collective awareness. The delicate dance of discretion required constant attention, and each misstep had consequences far beyond their private hearts. Then, amidst the controlled chaos of hotel preparations and casual chatter, Zoe witnessed something she hadn't expected, a secret involving another staff member that complicated her position. Her pulse quickened, a mixture of shock and concern tightening in her chest. Suddenly, the journey wasn't just about the team's performance or the careful preservation of her romance with Freddy. It had become a landscape of hidden truths and quiet choices, where every glance, every word, and every action carried unforeseen weight. Zoe realized that navigating this environment required more than skill and discretion. It demanded intuition, courage, and a willingness to face uncomfortable realities. The night settled over the hotel, the city lights outside casting a soft glow across the quiet rooms, yet inside, tension lingered like a shadow. Zoe found herself standing by the window, watching the world outside, feeling the weight of everything she had seen that day. Freddy entered quietly, his presence immediately grounding, and she felt the familiar pull of safety and desire mingled together. They exchanged a glance that spoke volumes, a silent promise that, no matter what emerged, they would face it together. Rumors continued to swirl subtly around the staff and players, whispers that Zoe couldn't fully ignore. She felt the tightrope beneath her feet, fragile yet unbroken, and realized that every interaction in the coming days could tip the balance. The secret she and Freddy shared had never been more vulnerable, and the stakes had never felt higher. Yet, in the midst of uncertainty, Zoe discovered a small thrill, the knowledge that love, even hidden, could be a quiet rebellion, a force that neither scrutiny nor circumstance could entirely contain. As the team prepared for the morning briefing, Zoe packed her supplies with careful hands, aware that the next hours would demand both focus and finesse. Freddy gave her a fleeting nod across the lobby, and in that simple gesture, a universe of understanding passed between them. The journey had begun, but already the edges of their private world were being tested, and Zoe sensed that each step forward would reveal more than just athletic skill. It would reveal courage, loyalty, and choices that could change everything. The morning light filtered through the hotel blinds, painting long stripes across the floor, but inside Zoe's mind, everything felt tangled and restless. The subtle murmurs she'd noticed yesterday had grown louder, small suspicions now taking shape as pointed questions and lingering glances. She moved through the breakfast area with practiced ease, distributing advice and checking on players, all while her heart raced. Every interaction felt loaded, each smile or nod potentially carrying more than casual warmth. She had trained herself to maintain composure, but the tension was like an invisible weight pressing down, testing her balance with every step. Freddy was nearby, coordinating with the coaching staff, his demeanor calm, but his eyes constantly scanning the room. Zoe caught him stealing a glance in her direction, the unspoken message clear: stay alert, trust the process, and protect what matters most. Their relationship, once a hidden spark of excitement, now felt like a fragile thread stretched taut over a chasm of suspicion. She understood the stakes. A single misstep could not only expose them, but also disrupt the delicate harmony of the team they both worked so hard to maintain. A sudden miscommunication between players drew Zoe into action, forcing her to step into the middle of an unexpected confrontation. The clash was small but intense, a mixture of frustration, fatigue, and competitiveness boiling over. As she soothed the tension, guiding hands and calming voices, she felt the sharp contrast of control and vulnerability. Her mind raced. How could she maintain professionalism, manage the team's dynamics, and still protect her private world with Freddy? The pressure was mounting, and every moment seemed to carry the weight of both choice and consequence. By mid-afternoon, Zoe felt the tension tighten around her like a coil, each small interaction magnifying the stakes. A rival coach from another team had arrived unexpectedly, and his piercing gaze seemed to linger a moment too long on Freddy. Zoe's stomach knotted as she noticed the subtle shift in the room. The way players whispered quietly, the way staff exchanged knowing looks. It was a delicate battlefield of perception, and she could feel the walls closing in, as if the secrets they had so carefully protected were beginning to leak through the cracks. Freddy approached her during a brief pause, his hand brushing hers, a fleeting comfort that carried the weight of both intimacy and warning. "Keep your focus," he murmured, low and steady, but Zoe could see the tension behind his eyes. Even he wasn't immune to the pressures, and for the first time, she realized that their love was no longer just a private rebellion. It had become a test of endurance, patience, and trust. Every glance from the rival coach, every whisper from teammates, now had potential to ignite consequences neither of them could fully control. Then, during a quiet moment before the team meeting, Zoe overheard a fragment of conversation that made her pause. Something previously hidden, a secret involving another player, was now coming into the open, and she felt a surge of anxiety mixed with curiosity. It wasn't just their relationship under threat anymore. Other loyalties, hidden truths, and unspoken alliances were beginning to intertwine, creating a web of complication that made her pulse quicken. The journey of secrecy, once thrilling, had now become a labyrinth of difficult choices, each one carrying profound emotional weight. The team gathered in the locker room, the air thick with anticipation and the faint scent of sweat and liniment. Zoe moved among them, her hands steady, offering guidance and encouragement, but her mind was elsewhere, tangled in the delicate threads of secrecy that threatened to unravel at any moment. She caught Freddy's eye across the room, and in that silent exchange, a mix of reassurance and shared anxiety passed between them. Every action, every gesture, now carried layers of meaning they couldn't afford to misstep on. Jealousy, suspicion, and small misunderstandings began to ripple through the team. A careless comment here, a lingering look there, and Zoe felt the fragile equilibrium she had fought to maintain teetering. Freddy's protective presence was comforting, yet it reminded her just how vulnerable they were. The emotional stakes were higher than ever. What had once been private excitement now had the potential to spark conflict, not just between them, but among everyone who surrounded them. As the pre-match briefing approached, Zoe felt a knot of tension tighten in her chest. A critical choice loomed: protect the secret at all costs, or risk revealing it to prevent something far worse from emerging. Every heartbeat, every decision felt magnified, a mixture of fear and determination coursing through her. She understood, perhaps more than ever, that courage wasn't just about facing opponents on the field. It was about navigating the intricate, fragile, and often painful webs of human relationships. And with the game just hours away, there was no turning back from the challenges that lay ahead. The stadium had emptied, leaving behind a quiet hum of lingering energy and the faint echo of cheers still resonating in the stands. Zoe walked slowly through the locker room, her hands still warm from helping tense muscles relax, but her mind was elsewhere, replaying every moment of the match and every subtle interaction that had led to this point. The secret she and Freddy had fought so hard to protect had already left traces, small whispers and knowing glances that hinted at the shifting dynamics around them. The adrenaline of the game was fading, replaced by the weight of consequence, and she felt both relief and apprehension in equal measure. Freddy approached her, his expression a mixture of pride, worry, and something tender that only she could decipher. "We made it through," he said softly, and Zoe let herself believe him, even as she knew that surviving the match didn't erase the challenges waiting beyond the field. Their connection, once a hidden flame, now had to navigate the aftermath, the reactions of teammates, the curiosity of staff, and the subtle judgments that always lingered in the background. Every smile, every casual gesture carried potential meaning, and Zoe felt the careful balance between private joy and public caution shifting under her fingertips. Meanwhile, the team was slowly dispersing, some players lingering to celebrate, others retreating into quiet reflection. Zoe noticed how alliances had subtly changed, friendships tested and strengthened in unexpected ways. It was a moment of reckoning, both for the relationships within the team and for her and Freddy personally. She realized that the consequences of their hidden romance were unavoidable now, and the only thing she could control was how she faced them, with honesty, courage, and a willingness to embrace the unexpected. The journey wasn't over. It had simply entered a new phase, one where trust, love, and resilience would be tested in ways they had never imagined. The hotel lobby felt strangely still compared to the chaos of the match day, yet Zoe could sense the undercurrents swirling quietly around her. Staff and players exchanged cautious words, subtle hints of curiosity and speculation brushing past her like invisible currents. She moved through it all with practiced grace, offering support where needed, but each glance and whisper reminded her that nothing stayed hidden forever. Even small gestures, a hand on a shoulder, a shared joke, carried weight, reshaping perceptions and altering relationships in ways she couldn't fully predict. Freddy stayed close, an anchor in the shifting tides of attention. They shared small, fleeting moments, a hand squeezed briefly, a reassuring smile, and Zoe felt a warmth that steadied her nerves. Yet she also sensed the undercurrent of tension, the unspoken questions from teammates, the subtle glances that weighed judgment and curiosity in equal measure. Their romance, once a thrilling secret, was now a delicate truth teetering on the edge of revelation. Every encounter felt like a test, and Zoe understood that the real challenge wasn't the match itself, but navigating the emotional landscape that followed. By evening, the quiet returned, punctuated only by distant city sounds and the occasional clink of glasses from the hotel bar. Zoe found a rare moment of solitude, reflecting on the past days, the intensity, the stolen moments with Freddy, the hidden tensions, and the choices that had shaped each interaction. She realized that even though the secret remained partially protected, everything had changed. Relationships were shifting, loyalties tested, and hearts exposed in ways she hadn't anticipated. The aftermath was proving that love, even when carefully concealed, had the power to reshape everything it touched. As night deepened, Zoe and Freddy finally found a quiet corner away from the lingering buzz of players and staff. The tension that had clung to them over the past days seemed to ease, replaced by a fragile, hard-earned serenity. They exchanged words carefully, honest and vulnerable, acknowledging both the challenges they had faced and the trust that had carried them through. Each small confession, each gentle smile, reinforced the bond that had survived whispers, suspicions, and unrelenting pressure. Around them, the team was settling into a new rhythm, some relationships strengthened by shared understanding, others frayed by secrets and misjudgments. Zoe realized that the aftermath of hidden truths could be as transformative as the revelations themselves. She felt a profound sense of growth, not just in her connection with Freddy, but in her own ability to navigate complexity with grace and courage. The world outside might never fully understand, but inside this space, she had found clarity and resilience. And yet, even in the quiet moments, Zoe sensed that their story was far from over. The choices they had made, the secrets they had protected, and the truths they had faced had reshaped their world irrevocably. The path ahead remained uncertain, full of possibilities, challenges, and the delicate interplay of love, loyalty, and ambition. With Freddy by her side, she knew they could face whatever came next, together. The chapter of this journey had ended, but the story of their lives, and their hearts, was just beginning to unfold.